First step, there are number of steps. First step of answer writing is essentially reading the question well, reading and identifying the demands of the question. So that is the first step of answer writing. Second is, once you have understood the demand of the question, you will move on to the next step, and that is the planning the answer. Then you will do what? You will plan the answer. And third is, definitely once you have planned, is writing the answer. So there are 3 steps involved in answer writing. And here when we are planning and writing the answers, very clearly, you know, as there are 3 parts of answer. One is what we call it as the introduction. Second is what we call it as the main body. And third, if you talk about, is what we call it as the conclusion. So this is where we are going to talk about precisely in the first hour. We are going to talk about these steps of answer writing. So let us begin with the first aspect, that is reading and identifying the demand of the question. Identifying and reading the demand of the question. Now, when it comes to reading and identifying the demands of the question, what we need to understand is, well read is half done. Well read is half done. Half your work is complete. I have seen most of the students, they struggle in this part. There are a number of reasons for that. One basic reason why we generally tend to struggle in this part is because we don't have the habit of reading the question. So as soon as you see the question, you will see some keyword which you might be aware, you would have prepared with respect to that keyword. What you will start doing, you will just start writing, even without thinking what was the demand of the question, even without properly understanding what is the need or what are the meanings of the different keywords which are there in the question. We have this tendency to rush to the answer writing, and clearly you can understand that suppose if you are here and this is your destination point which you have to reach, and suppose you take a wrong path, what will happen? If you take a wrong path, clearly you will move away from your goal, from your target. So this is where was the demand of the question, and this is your content of the answer. Content of the answer. ठीक है. So we have to be very specific when it comes to what is the need of the question. ठीक है. Deepak is asking in this part, main problem is in last hours, in which due to time problem sometimes we read question differently and write which is not asked in the question. इसका कोई solution? Yes, every problem has its solution, Deepak, and here also same thing. Solution here is very clearly that reading the question should become your second personality. Why this is happening? Under when you are in normal circumstances, you are doing that, but under pressure you are unable to do that. To me, it is very clear that there is lack of practice. It should be practiced so many times that it should become a habit. As soon as I see the question, I just am able to identify the keyword. It should become my personality, my habit, and this would only come by practice. There is no other way, there is no shortcut in this. Okay? Now, very clearly, if I am writing this content and demand of the question was this, tell me, will I be ever able to get the desired marks? Absolutely not. I won't be able to get the desired marks. But I will have a feeling that I have written well. Unfortunately, this feeling would not be shared by the examiner, because he was the person who was making the question. He was the person who is calmly reading the question and identifying what is needed and what is not needed. And your content has just deviated. And why it is so? Just because you didn't read the question properly. Okay, I'll give you some examples. Like for example, suppose if you look into, I'll show you in fact. I'll just show you. Like there was one question in 2000, I think 13. Yes, it was 2011, not 13. It was 2011. Can you see here? Can you see this question? Present a comparative analysis of the regimes of Himalayan and peninsular rivers of India. Okay, actually it should be examined and examine their implications in the irrigation system of the country. And I remember that year so many students had attempted this question to write, and you know 90%, in fact when I am saying 90%, I am being conservative. It was actually much more than 90%. What they had done, they just saw comparative and here Himalayan and peninsular river. Can you see here? Is it visible to you? Tell me. They just saw this word and here this word, that is comparative analysis, and ultimately what they did, they decided that they are going to take up this question. Unfortunately, what they forgot here was very important keyword, that this question was not a simple comparison of Himalayan and peninsular river. This question was with respect to the comparison of the regimes of Himalayan and peninsular rivers. Okay. Can you get what we are saying here? It was about the regime. Regime is with respect to, or regime is a situation, it talks about the distribution of phenomena in time. ठीक है, distribution of that phenomena in time. So how that phenomena has been distributed in time. So for example, when we are here talking about the river regime, we are talking about the discharge, that is the water flow in the river in a year, that is in January, February, March, April, May, June till December. What is the flow of the river? How much water is flowing? That is what we call it as the discharge. And as I told you, all those who attempted, more than 90% of them just didn't see this keyword regime. And why it happened? Same thing, because we haven't been properly trained how to do that. Okay. That is one. Many times what happens that we just tend to forget other keywords which are there in the question. Like for example, here another keyword which was there was examine. This keyword examine. Okay. Now, examine their implications in the irrigation system of the country. Now tell me, when there is keyword like examine, what we do in case of examine, abhi hum dekhenge, we will see that in case of examine, there is, you have to agree with the statement, no doubt about this. In fact, around 60% to even 70% of your answer can be on the agreement part. But there is also implicit, this is explicit. Abhi main ye sare words samjhaunga, you just wait for that, just I am giving example. Explicit, but there is also an implicit element, and this is what? This is your disagreement. And this disagreement can vary from 30 to 40%. So again, read the question which we are talking about here. Can I say, when I am talking about regime of Himalayan and peninsular rivers affecting the irrigation system of the country, can I say that this statement is essentially partially true, or I would say incomplete? It is true but incomplete. Can you understand that there are other factors also which affect the irrigation system in the country? Like for example, other factors like cropping pattern. Today cropping pattern is playing very important, very dominant role in determining the irrigation system of the country. Many places have switched over to the high yielding variety crops, and HYV crops need intensive water availability. So this means that ultimately what is required, there is lots of water required, and you will find that even in those areas where the regime is not very suitable for groundwater, people are using tube well irrigation. Okay. So when the question is saying examine their implications in the irrigation system of the country, can I say the factors other than irrigation, factors other than regime should also should have been mentioned? Yes or no? We should have also mentioned the other factors. Even writing in this part, I found that there were only handful of students who actually wrote beside the physical factors affecting the irrigation system of the country. Okay. So see what makes that difference. It is identifying the keywords. Okay. So you have to understand, I had made one style of correcting it, you can also follow this style. And what I would suggest you to do basically is to essentially make a hierarchy of keywords. Understand the hierarchy of keywords. And there are two types of keywords in the question. One type of keyword, if you talk about, is, I call it as the primary keyword. There is a second type which I call it as the secondary keyword. Okay? Which I am calling it as the secondary keyword. When I am reading the question, I generally used to make circle or box to identify the primary keyword. When I used to read, I still have this habit because it has become my habit. I cannot read a question without a pen or pencil in my hand. Okay? So, there is this underline. I used to always do what? Underline the secondary keywords. Now, what is difference between the primary keyword and secondary keyword? So, the difference between the primary keyword is and secondary keyword is that primary keyword gives me the headings of the paragraphs. To be written. Secondary keyword gives me the internal content of the paragraphs. In the example that we took, in this example, what we found, or in that example that we are taking, the primary keyword was, again if we look, it was, if I take the first question, suppose present a comparative analysis of the regime of Himalayan and Peninsular river. So, in this case, the primary keyword is the regime of Himalayan and Peninsular rivers. Okay? While if you talk about secondary keyword, in secondary keyword here it was comparative analysis. Comparative analysis. Okay? So, this is what is the primary keyword and the secondary keyword. Primary keyword will give me the headings of the paragraphs. How I will be writing the content, whether I have to criticize, whether I have to write the shortcomings, whether I have to write the positives, this will be decided by the secondary keyword. Can you get what I am saying here? Like if I take the second part is saying examine their implications in irrigation system of the country. So, implications in the irrigation system of the country ultimately becomes the primary keyword. And if you talk about the secondary keyword here is clearly examine. Okay. So, I hope you understood this concept of primary and secondary keyword. Tell me fast. Have you got what I am saying? what is the primary keyword and what is the secondary keyword. What the primary keyword tells us and what the secondary keyword tells us. Secondary keyword को अभी हम और डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे, but first you must understand the difference between these two type of keywords, the primary keyword and the secondary keyword. ठीक है, so make it a habit first of all to make sure that you are able to identify the primary and the secondary keywords, and always keep a pen with you so that you don't forget. Make it a habit of making it like this. Now, it is very clear that every question will have its own primary keyword. Primary keyword is essentially what? It is the key theme. It is the key theme of the question. It is the essence of the question. It is the topic on which the question has been asked. Okay? So, it is the topic. So, that means every question will have its own primary keyword. But there are some common secondary keywords which we can discuss, which we have to take into account while we are writing about the key theme. Whether we have to write only information, or we have to write also explanation, or we have to also write positives, negatives, or combination of all of these. It would be decided by whom? It would be decided by these secondary keywords. So, let us see, we'll delve a little bit more into the case of secondary keywords. So, if you talk about the secondary keywords, there are several category of secondary keywords. So, I will make a chart here so that understanding becomes easy for you. There are 5 type of secondary keywords. There is category 1, there is category 2, there is category 3, and finally there is category 5. So, there are 5 types of keywords. Okay. So, it is something like this. So, category 1 keyword is those type of keywords where information is sought, is required. In fact, here the key factor is what? It is what is asked. Okay, what element is asked here. So, you can understand many such type of keywords can be there, like one itself is what, others can be like, for example, identify, list down. Okay. So, several such type of keywords can be there. You can understand it is easiest to write, because here you just have to provide the information. But many times you know what happens, students forget, they tend to forget to identify these secondary keywords. One question was asked, I remember correctly, one question was there. This question was It was identify the main bio reserves of India and examine their role in conservation of biodiversity. ठीक है. So this question was asked. Now if you look into this question, can you understand very clearly that here there are two secondary keywords being asked. One is identify and second is examine. We will see examine is a higher order keyword, third category keyword. अभी हम उसको देखते हैं. Now if you knew this, can I say when I am planning my answer, what will be the first step? How much space you will give for identify and how much page you will be giving for examine? Suppose you had got 4 pages to write. Tell me, how much you will give weightage to identify, first part, and how much you will give weightage to the second part? Anyone? Tell me. Well, if I was writing, so I'll give 1 page to identify and rest of the pages to examine, because identify is very simple. In geography, because this question is asked in geography, tell me, can I say one very easy way of identification could have been drawing a map of India and pointing out those locations of biosphere reserves. That could have been the best way of identifying. But you try to understand that most of the students will not identify these secondary keywords. So once in our test in guidance, we gave this question for students to write, and you know what was the situation? 90% of them had written almost 2 pages, 2.5 pages for identify, where they were also describing those keywords. Tell me, is here anywhere written describe? Tell me. Although we can say that describe is also one of the keywords of this category. There is not written, it is not written. You just had to identify that these are the main biosphere reserves of India. इतना ही करना था. And those students who spend more time by writing 2 pages, 2.5 pages, they wrote 1.5 pages extra. They took more time also. Will they get marks for that extra effort? No. They are not going to get marks for the extra efforts that they have put. Okay? So very clearly you have to understand. So that is first category. Second category here is that here information is explicitly required or asked. Only Sahil is asking only names or some little information about biosphere reserves. Sahil, it is saying identify. Even if it was writing describe, then we could have written few things about the biosphere reserves. It is saying just identify. So first thing I would say is, like if I have to write an introduction, suppose मुझे इसमें एक introduction लिखना होता, so I could have written one line introduction. I could have started with that biosphere reserves represent the modern conception of biodiversity conservation. Full stop. Coming to directly to the main body, and I would simply start writing and say that India has the following, or India has established the following biosphere reserves to achieve this end. And here what I will do, I will make one map of India and I will show the most important keywords और sorry biosphere reserves of India. ठीक है, और इसमें भी देखो एक कीवर्ड क्या था, is it asking all or the main important ones? Is it asking all or the only the important ones, the main ones? It is asking the main ones. So even if you skipped few, it would not affect. ठीक है, how much words for identify it would differ from question to question. In general, if it is 4 page, you give 1 page, so it would be 25 to 30% words. ठीक है, so that is category 1. Now here in category 2, very importantly, what is the case here? Explanation is sought explicitly. ठीक है, so here what is explicit is the explanation that is explicit. But can you understand that if you have to explain something, you can also, depending upon what is the theme, the primary keyword, you can also write information as it is implicitly asked. ठीक है, so information is implicit while explanation has been asked explicitly. Number of type of keywords would fall in this category, like why is clearly one such keyword. Explain, ठीक है, explain. There can be others like reasons, provide reasons, or there can be reasoned account of something. Others like elaborate, illustrate. ठीक है, all these type of keywords fall in this category, where the main aspect which you have to write is you have to explain the primary keyword. Explanation of the primary keyword is sought. ठीक है, although in all of these you can use examples, case studies, but illustrate is something which is very clearly asking to, it is explain with examples. You have to justify something. Okay. So all these keywords, they are falling under this category. Justify is also one such keyword. So that is the second category keyword. जब इस तरह के keyword होंगे, clearly weightage would be increasing. ठीक है. Difficulty level is also increasing simultaneously. In category 3 keyword, basically what you have to do, you have to explain here what needs to be explained. There is explicit factor, explicit, you have to explain the for view around the theme. But in this there is also an implicit factor where you also have to write few things on the against view. Clearly the one which is explicit you can go to 60 to 70% here. In case of implicit you can range between 30 to 40%, जो अभी हमने पीछे देखा था. ठीक है. So that is the case of category 3 keywords, and here number of keywords are there, like for example examine, discuss, evaluate, ठीक है, analyze. All these type of keywords fall in this third category keyword. Clearly you can see you have your difficulty level is increasing. You have to explain the for view, but you have to also write there is implicit mention also of the against view. ठीक है. So that is category 3 keyword. Category 4 keyword में what is the case? Here also you have to explain, no doubt, but explaining what? Here now it is becoming explicit. The criticism or the against view, and there is also explicit the for. Both are now explicit here. So your challenge has multiplied, it has increased more. In this case, depending upon the question to question, you can go for here 50% here, 50% here. ठीक है. And number of type of such keywords can be there, like for example critically examine, critically analyze. ठीक है. Several such type of keywords, even one where critique has to be more, a little bit more you can put critique. Like for example, one is write a critique of something. So there in this part, the critique part can be even 60%, 70%, depending upon how much content you have. ठीक है. So that is where you have to keep in mind. I still remember once when I was writing, I think it was 2009, one of the mains, and questions were like, one of the questions I remember, it was critically analyze the role of Indian Council of Agricultural Research in development of agriculture in India. This was the question. It was asked, I think, in GS. and I knew about the role of Indian Council of Agriculture Research. Without even looking into the secondary keyword, I just wrote my answer. बाद में जब marks आए तो I was very surprised because I felt I had written very well, but I got less marks than expected. I couldn't understand that for a long time, but as I went through what mistake I had done, finally I realized that the answer I had written didn't contain critique. There was no mention of critique in my answer. I just had written all the things which had been done by Indian Council of Agriculture Research in development of agriculture in India.